Okay, so in this part of the algebra fraction, we are focusing on the adding and subtraction. Okay, so for when we do fraction plus fraction, or when we do fraction minus fraction, okay, we always go to the part where you got to make same denominator. Okay, so for multiplication and division, you do not need to make same denominator. So for the fraction plus fraction, fraction minus fraction, then you will make same denominator. Okay, so I'm going to show you the situation of all the kind of fraction that you need to make same denominator. So we start off with 5a. 5a is actually set 1 word. So in set 1, the denominator that you have are numbers. So in this question, if you look, the denominator is 3 and 2. So the common denominator is actually 3 times 2, which is the 6. So what will you do? You will multiply by a 2, top and bottom. You will multiply by a 3, top and bottom. But when you were doing it in set 1, I mentioned that you must remember to put a bracket. So last year when you were doing it, okay, so you must remember to put a bracket. And then when you got same denominator, you make it into single fraction. So usually it is after the single fraction, then you simplify the numerator. Some of you may simplify earlier. If you do not have sign error, I'm okay with it. But some of you might have some sign error. So if you are the kind who always makes sign error in fraction, then I suggest you expand the numerator only after you get a single fraction. So after that, x and x, you will get minus x minus 7 plus 7y over 6. So this one is more like set 1 work. In set 1, you already learned make same denominator. It's just that right now, our denominator will get more complex. Okay, so for part B, the common denominator will be these two. So it's actually a 12xy. So you multiply a 4y for the first one, multiply 3x for the second one. So eventually you will get 12y, you will get 8y over 12xy. You will get 8y over 12xy. Then you will get 6x over 12xy. Oh, sorry, I think I made a mistake. It's not 6y. It's 3x squared. So after you get same denominator, it will become a single fraction. So that's it. That will be your answer. There shouldn't be any cancellation, okay, because it's a addition on top. Okay, so making same denominator. So it's all about making same denominator, except that it become more complex. So here, x minus 1 and x minus 2. The common denominator will be x minus 1 and x minus 2. So you multiply x minus 2 for the first fraction. So this one, when it appears for exam, some students, they may forget what to do or they cannot execute. So this is one of the common one that they like to test. So you multiply the top and bottom. Okay, then you will get same denominator. Then you can combine into a single fraction. Okay, when you combine into a single fraction, you can leave the denominator alone. That means you do not need to expand. You just need to expand the numerator. You can just leave it as it is. Do not need to expand. So from here, I will get 5x minus 8. So that is my fraction plus fraction. Okay, I managed to add two fractions together. Okay, here comes the more complex one. There will be more difficult denominator where you can factorize first. So you look at the first denominator. You can actually factorize first. And then you look at the second denominator. You can also factorize first. Okay, don't blindly just make same denominator. Be very sensitive to the denominator where you can factorize. So in this case, right, the two denominator is as simple as take out a common factor. So if you look, right, they already got a common bracket. So the common denominator will be 6 because they already got the common bracket. So I just need to times 3. Then I will get a 15 over 6 x minus 2y. My objective is to make same denominator. So the bracket is already the same. I'm not going to touch the bracket since the two of them got identical bracket. So I just focus on making the number same. So once I get to same denominator, then I can simply do a subtraction. So I will get a 7 over 6 x minus 2y. Okay, so this is one of the kind where you don't see in Sec 1. In Sec 1, the denominator will not need you to factorize. Right now, before you make same denominator, you got to be very sensitive to the denominator that you can factorize. Okay, so you look at the level of making same denominator. In Sec 1, your denominator starts with number. And now add in a little bit more algebra. And then the algebra becomes bigger. And suddenly your denominator needs to be factorized. So since the denominator needs to be factorized, that means you can involve the other method of factorization. Okay, so in the next example, here I'm going to show you the denominator that needs other method of factorization. So again, be very sensitive. Look at this one. So by now, this one should be very fast to all of you. You should be able to recognize that this is the x plus 3, this is the x minus 3. Okay, so you should be able to realize that that is factorizable. So after that is factorizable, you look at the two denominator. If you look at the two denominator, you realize that they already got one common bracket. But the first fraction needs one more. So actually the common denominator will be x plus 3, x minus 3. So I'm going to multiply the missing bracket to the first fraction. So I'm going to multiply the missing bracket to the first fraction. Then when I get to same denominator, I will get a single fraction. So again, you can leave the denominator alone. You just focus on expanding out the numerator. So 2x minus x, I got a x. So I got a x minus 6 eventually. Okay, so these are the harder ones where you must be sensitive and your factorization must be correct. Then in the next one, the factorization is the kind that you got to use your cross method or your tic-tac-toe method. By now, I hope you can already mentor this. Okay, you can already mentor this. Okay, so that's how I mentor. Okay, so once you mentor this, make sure there's no sign error. Okay, you look at the first fraction, the first denominator. The first denominator got 2 brackets. The second one only got 1 bracket. So each of them got the common bracket. So the common denominator will be the double bracket. So you multiply the missing bracket to the top and bottom. So I multiply the missing bracket, and then I can combine into a single fraction. So again, when you get combined into a single fraction, you just simplify the numerator. So here I will get 3x minus 3. Okay, for this question, the numerator can be further factorized. The numerator can be further factorized. And then we end up cancelling a bracket. So we end up cancelling a bracket. Okay, so we can cancel bracket because it's a multiplication. Okay, we cannot cancel plus or minus. Okay, so we cancel bracket like something like your primary school cancellation in the multiplication process. Okay, so these are the harder ones. Okay, the last one is the most tricky one. The last one is a bit tricky. Okay, so the last one, right, you actually need to foresee a little bit. If you are fast enough, you realize that this is something like 2 square minus x square. By now, I hope that this is fast enough for you already. Okay, so usually when I see things like this, right, I prefer to factorize out a negative. I prefer to flip the other way. Meaning, right, this one, I'm going to factorize out the negative. I prefer to factorize out the negative. So I will get minus x squared minus 4. So I prefer to do the flip. And for x squared minus 4, when I factorize, I will get the x plus 2 and I will get the x minus 2. So I actually prefer to factorize out a negative. So upon factorizing out the negative, the brackets will be nicer. The bracket will be nicer because you can see that there is a common bracket. So the common denominator will be x plus 2, x minus 2. And then I just need to multiply the missing bracket. Okay, so you multiply the missing bracket to the top and bottom. When you do that, you can combine into a single fraction. And then you just focus on expanding out the numerator. So I'll get 3x minus x, 2x plus 6. Okay, leave the denominator alone, no need to expand. Okay, for the numerator, in this case, you can factorize, but it doesn't enable you to cancel the bracket with the denominator. So that will be your final answer. So these two examples deals with fraction plus fraction. So you got to be sensitive to the denominator, whether you can factorize or not, before you can make same denominator. So fraction plus fraction, fraction minus fraction, you will need to make same denominator. But take note whether the denominator can be factorized or not.